Is your bracelet Cola Stacks?
No,
Oh,
it's not.
thought it was.
No, it's not.
We
I saw
just
that podcast.
Did you?
Yeah.
Now every bracelet I just think is Cola Stacks because it's the only one that I know.
No, it's not. It's black tourmaline and selenite and then hematite.
Oh.
So
What does that mean? What do those do?
they're basically grounding crystals. Selenite's really good for clarity, mental clarity. Tourmaline and hematite ground the body.
Where do they come from? You just find it in rocks somewhere in certain areas of the world?
Yes, all minerals. They're all minerals. And so, yep. So they actually have a selenite farm in Arizona where you can go and get your own selenite.
Oh,
But
really?
selenite's not water soluble, so you have to be really careful with it. Water will destroy it.
See, that will get so annoying so fast. Every time it's raining right now, what are you going to do? Just
Yeah,
go
well,
hide
I
it?
mean, yeah.
Wash
yeah.
your hands?
Like,
Yeah.
don't shower with
Shower.
it. Don't soak your
Pool.
hand with it, but swimming, stuff like that. But cool.
Welcome to Here for the Health of It podcast.
Awesome.
All right, tell us kind of who you are, what you do, and I know your business is about 1.5 years you've been into it, so give us the scoop on that.
Yep. So Shvaas Spa opened up January 22nd of 22. Basically, personal story behind it.
Oh, did you almost think about going February 2nd to 22?
So we actually had our ribbon cutting February 22nd, 22.
That's cool.
So we opened January 22nd, and I don't know if you know this or not, but the day before our opening day, it snowed tremendously in South Carolina.
Oh.
Yeah, 6 inches of snow. And
I
was
remember that day.
Oh crap! Are we gonna open? We still opened anyways. It was cool, but
Did anyone come? Because I grew up in Canada where when it snows a foot, it's no big deal. Here, if it says snow in the forecast, nobody leaves their house.
You're 100% right. So people did come. It was interesting. I think I had 12 clients that day. I sat there, cold, wet, snowy, whatever. I had 12 clients, which was cool. I mean, first day opening up 12 clients, it was cool. I
Great.
just kind of rolled with it. But so pretty much I was in corporate sales for a while, killing myself,
What were you selling?
heating and air conditioning.
Really?
Yeah.
I did not
So-
see that coming either.
Most people don't. And I'll go ahead and just put it out there. When a woman enters a man's world, quote unquote, you kind of have to work a little bit harder to gain the trust of men, especially in that kind of market. And so I pretty much worked all the time to gain that trust.
But you probably killed it. I feel like if you're
I
a
did.
female in a man's world, but you're working really hard and good at it, then you have an advantage. It's just
Yes.
the intro level you have to work.
Yes, you have to get in and gain the trust of people. But I think what happens is when a woman gets into their position like that and they earn the respect, the men see that they have attention to detail, that things don't get missed as often. So that's where the success comes into play. But it's very hard to break down the door. Once you break down the door and you get in, it's over from there. The breaking down the door was the hardest part. I didn't realize what mentally and physically that was doing to my body. I would answer the phone 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, people calling. When it's summertime in Columbia, South Carolina,
Right.
everybody that needs an air conditioner the next day is a 98-year-old single lady whose husband just died, and I need to know if you have this in stock. It's just kind of how it worked. So,
And you can't say no to that. What are you going to say? No?
you
Just
can't.
go.
You can't. I'm sorry.
Ban
Call me back
yourself?
in the morning. Yeah. No, you break out your computer, you pull it up, you do it. And I love my clients. My clients were awesome. And I didn't mind doing it, but I didn't realize what it was doing to me and how it was affecting me. Until I had my doctor's appointment. He's like, dude, you're 32 years old and stress levels are out of control. Your blood pressure is super high.
Really?
If you don't do something about it, we're going to have to put you on medication. I'm like, what? No. So he said, you just need to learn how to manage your stress. And I'm like, well, what do you do? How do you manage your stress? And he's like, I don't know. You just got to find out what works for you. So I think about it, and I start doing things for myself, the yoga classes, and I work out and do all these different things. And I'm like, this isn't the answer. So I started venturing out meditation, falling into meditation. That really helped me mentally. And then I started to notice that I became more focused the more I meditated and the more things that come into play. And I grew up in South Florida, so I never had allergies until I moved to South Carolina. When I moved to South Carolina, all of a sudden, allergies were rampant. And so I started researching that a little bit more, got into halotherapy. I was like, okay, this is good. So I went and I tried it, drove down to Augusta, Georgia, tried it, and I'm like, yep, this is the answer. And so slowly started to incorporate and build my business plan of what worked for me to manage my stress, and then said, okay, this is what we're going to do.
And then your blood pressure dropped.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's been fine since?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
See, people are gonna love to hear that because you didn't change your diet, right?
I did a little
little
bit, yeah, but not significantly.
See, Christina,
Not
would have been better if you
significantly.
just said, no, I just
Yeah.
went into
No,
the spa.
but it's really funny because like I can't dive into a whole lot of the information on this, but I do specifically know a doctor who had a quadruple bypass last year. Works out all the time, eats a great diet,
Right.
and stress caused his heart attack.
Yeah.
So
I think mental health is one of the biggest, it is the biggest thing that creates disease
absolutely,
across the board.
absolutely,
And you-
absolutely.
And so I guess continue on that journey then. So you didn't have like a serious health scare necessarily. You started seeing the warning signs and said, let me look for therapies. How did you stumble across, and it's halotherapy? Halo?
I say halo therapy. A lot
Halotherapy?
of people call it halotherapy as
And just
well.
so the audience knows what that is, what is that?
Sure. So we kind of went big or went home. We built a salt cave. So we have 15,000 pounds of pink Himalayan salt. When you walk in, it just looks like you're walking into a cave underground, basically.
awesome.
Yep. We have a halo generator that we use. So some people can be confused a little bit. We're not just putting you in a room with a bunch of salt all over the place. We actually pump in a pharmaceutical grade
Like the
aerosol.
powderized? Oh,
Yep.
nice.
So it aerosols it, turns it into like salt powder, basically. When you breathe that in, basically what it does is it attaches to the little hairs in the sinus cavity in the nose, opens up the lungs, attaches to any kind of moisture, mucus, anything like that you have in there. So being that we opened up post-COVID, one big key thing that we learned was the people who had that lasting cough that would never go away, halotherapy helped
No
it.
kidding.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard incredible things with it, with asthma and any allergy type thing. Have you seen anybody with lung cancers or anything like real significant?
No.
Or read anything about that?
So the only thing that we actually have on our release is if you do have lung cancer or coughing up blood, it's not something that we would necessarily recommend you do, but you're more than welcome to get approval from your oncologist or your doctor. If they feel like this is something you can do, great. I do have other clients who have breast cancer, and their integrative oncologist out of Atlanta recommended them to come and do
Yeah.
it. Most people don't realize stress really hurts you when you have cancer.
Yep.
It just kind of kills your immune system. And so they want you to find modalities that help you with stress management, which is the reason why her doctor referred her to me.
Sweet. So
Which
there-
is cool.
So essentially, you get the zen feeling of it, right? So for your mental health to de-stress that, but then you also get the physical sensation of breathing that in and the components of what the salt does inside the body.
Yes.
What about with sinus issues? I would imagine that's another big one.
Yes. So I've had a lot of people who have really bad sinus issues, allergies. They'll go in and in their first visit, they have drainage coming down the back of their neck. And they're like, oh my gosh, or people who are so stopped up when they go in. Normally we put you in a zero gravity chair. So when you're in that zero gravity chair, you're laying back. When we pull you back up is when you start seeing that drainage and they're like, oh my gosh, I can breathe.
Yeah.
There are people who have been stopped up forever and they come in and do it a couple of times and they're like, man, this feels great.
So does the salt, like the pounds of salt that you have in there, and then the salt that's in the air, what does the salt in the room do?
It's more of aesthetic.
Is it?
Yeah, it's one of those things where, and it depends on your personal belief. For me personally, I believe that all elements of earth give out an energy. And so when you're in that room, it just gives you a totally different energy and vibe. And plus, it produces negative ions, which we all need to offset all of the positive ions that we get in this world. So, but like I said, that all depends on what you believe personally and scientifically. Some people don't see it that way, or they necessarily haven't researched into it. But for me, it's a
Right.
negative ion situation.
And it's if it seems like it's more normal in Europe to have it, because I remember
Yes.
when my wife and I went to Budapest, and there was all over the place. In the hotel that we stayed in, they had a spa that had it, and I went and hung out in there, and it was cool, and I got to do all their. But it's like a lot of things that you're doing now, they had 5 years ago in just
Yes.
a run-of-the-mill hotel in Budapest.
Yep. So a lot of times in Europe, This is just through the research of what I've learned in Europe. A lot of their quote unquote spa services are really more just wellness, saunas, salt therapy. These are all things that Europeans do because they're on social health care. Europeans do this to stay healthy because they're on social health care. That's something that their government encourages them to do. So the more healthier you are, the less cost you're going to cost your country for healthcare. And I just feel like, my goal and hopes are to change the narrative a little bit here in America. I feel like spa services are a luxury item for a lot of people, and they see it as luxury,
Yeah.
and it really should be a necessity. I feel like if more people spent time on the wellness side, that they wouldn't be as sick. Focus a little bit on it instead of waiting until you're in your 60s and you've retired and worked yourself to death, and now you're sick and you can't enjoy anything. So
It's a shift. I mean, it's a delayed gratification shift, I think, that overall just needs to happen, because a lot of people just spend all the money that they have and then they wake
Yep.
up at they're 75 years old, or they just eat like garbage, or they're stressed out, don't sleep, whatever it is. And
Yep.
then all of a sudden they're really sick and now trying to figure out a cure for it,
Yep.
which is kind of a backwards way to do it. Why not just put in a little time in the beginning and then you don't have to worry about it down the road?
Yep, and we're seeing it. It's kind of interesting. I get a lot of college students, a lot of younger generation people who really focus on their wellness. Like they already have the mindset of doing something for themselves once a month at least, to stay mentally, de-stressed, I guess. I think they've watched their parents work themselves to death and be totally stressed, and they don't want to live that life. And I'm starting to see a little more of the minimalist side in the younger generation. Like they don't want the multiple cars, they don't want the big houses. Like they're cool with being in a small place because they want to travel and see the world and put their money in other places. So it's kind of interesting to see the narrative on both sides of the fence. I see the ones who have worked themselves to death and are now trying to relax and, get better. And then I see the younger ones. So it's kind of cool.
And then how do you know that you mentioned crystals and some of the stuff at the beginning. How do you know they're real? And I'm saying more like I believe what you believe, I think, which is that they give off energy. But what I'm worried about is you go to the store and you buy something and it's plastic and you're wearing it around and you have this like maybe you think it's what it is, but it's not.
Yeah, that's a hard question for me to answer. There are places that, have good quality stuff. There's quite a few of them around Colombia. I think anywhere where you go, it's more of an energy thing. I think that for me personally, if I'm feeling a good vibe from somebody, I feel like this is good stuff. They're not in it to quote unquote screw you over.
Yeah.
So I feel like for me personally, that's the answer. It's really hard. Like you buy it online, you're taking a gamble. But if you go to a store and you buy it, you can touch it, you can feel it, you can,
And do you think the more body it touches, the better?
No.
Really?
So I'm a firm believer in saging and cleansing energy. So one thing that I always do for my clients is when they buy a product from me, I always sage it before it goes out the door and just cleanse the energy. Whoever touched it before, I don't want that person's energy to carry through to somebody else.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Energy is everything. So I've set intentions on my building, and a lot of people probably think I'm woo-woo and crazy, but I really just think that my intentions are that people who are seeking true health and wellness, have good attitudes, are wanting a true relationship and figuring out who they are, come into that building. And I've never had any altercations with any clients. I've probably had about 20,000 people come through my building since I've opened. Nobody's ever given me a hard time. Nobody's ever said, hey, it was nothing like what we thought it would be. We just want it to be a safe space for everybody and, somewhere they can go, disconnect. And
Have you ever seen Yellowstone, the movie?
so
Or the television show? Yeah.
I've kind of watched it here and there, but not the whole series all the way through.
There's a guy that, it's a lady that they can't stand, and they always walk around. There's one guy who's like always has to be saging. Sage is when you start sage on fire, right? And it's so like anytime the lady's around, the guy is saging, or he'll be like, "Oh, we got to get," and then like it comes around, and the guy like goes and circles the other guy and starts saging it just because she's
Negative energy.
She's evil.
Negative
She's mean.
energy. And it takes, so I always try to explain people when they come in and I'm talking about energy, a lot of people just don't understand what I mean. And so There's a monk that I follow through social media, and he put it in perspective for me, and it's the best way for me to explain it to people. Emotion is energy in motion. So when you think about it, when you get really, really angry, by the time you're done angry, like you feel exhausted.
Right.
Because you're so mad and you've expelled all of the energy in that anger. But when you feel love, it makes you feel happy, and it's a very lightweight thing, and it doesn't take a whole lot of energy to do it. And so when I start talking about energy and I explain it to them in that way, they're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. Like, you know?
Yeah, that's super good.
I would love to just play a game where we have fake
Crystals.
bracelets and real ones. And then just randomly give them to people and then call them up and say, hey, how has it been doing? And then see what they say. And if they're,
But I think, if their intention's set right, I don't know if
Yeah.
it matters.
well, that's what I mean. Well, then
It's-
why get a real
I
crystal?
know.
Why
Well,
not just get a
but it
30-cent
I think it feels
plastic
it
one?
would feel better. It's like, oh, this is the real deal. Then
Yeah.
your energy gets hyped up more.
I really do think it's all about
I
vibration.
don't know.
You're kidding. All right, well, here's
listen,
a good example.
that's arguing both sides of it.
Well,
that here used it, but then also it doesn't matter
Here's
because
what I
the
think.
intention is
No,
behind
here
it.
let's use like a brand or something. Let's use clothing.
Yes. If
So
you
for
tell me
you-
it's Lululemon, but it's some
it's not.
knockoff brand, I'll know immediately.
No.
Guaranteed.
1000%. If
1000%.
we can, all right, but what if we got a Lululemon thing, took the logo off of it, handed it to you? You're telling me you know once it touches your
You could
skin.
you could test because of the way that they fit.
Alright.
I know how it fits versus like Roan pants fit a different way than
See,
say like the Lululemon pants.
People, especially in the U.S., will look at a brand and like it could be Yeti cooler, exactly the same thing, probably even keep things colder. And if it doesn't have Yeti on it, it's like, man,
It's
They're
not
not
worth
into
it.
it.
My husband always says ripped jeans. Like,
Yes.
you
Yeah.
know, they'll
It's like the
spend
gold-
$120 for a pair of jeans that I could have taken your jeans out in the garage and take a grind or
Right.
two and give them to you right then and
Right.
there. So I think it is really, especially in America, a label thing. I think
Right.
that, and that's what brought me to the point of in America, we see this kind of stuff as luxury. When you go and get a massage, by the time it's done, it's $120. You know, you go and you get a facial, it's $100. Can you do that multiple times? The mom who has 3 kids at home,
Right.
you know, working, and the husband and everything else.
Even
You
the mom
can't.
that's even just a normal person
Yeah.
that doesn't have kids.
You
it's
just
hard to
can't.
do.
And so it becomes a luxury thing. And I think I've even experienced it personally where people will call me and they'll be like, hey, you know, do we have showers? And do you give us a robe where we can walk around in a robe? And I'm like, nope, if that's what you're looking for, that's not me. I'm sorry. You're going to wear your everyday clothes because my business was built on the idea that I provide a space for you to stress relief at any given time of the day in the middle of your workday. My goal is for you to take time in the middle of the day when you're at your heightened stress level to bring yourself back down, not necessarily be a luxury experience. But what I have found is those same clients who wanted that luxury experience come to us and get a totally different experience. And at the end of the day, they were like, okay, I didn't need the luxury. This is really what I needed.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. I like it.
So you're not sweating in the salt area.
No,
But
not at all.
if you go in the sauna though, you're sweating.
Some people do. Some people don't. It totally depends. So we do infrared saunas, which
People
aren't.
don't sweat in the
Yes,
sauna.
Yeah.
yes, you would be surprised.
I am surprised.
Yep,
I've seen that.
Yep. Often, it happens often. So most people don't realize infrared uses light to create heat. So it's heating you from the inside out. I always tell people think of the microwave factor. It's kind of what it is.
Yep.
So if you have a low body temperature, most people do have a low body temperature, especially women. It takes your body to get to a certain sweat point. So 30 minutes in an infrared sauna, if you have a low body heat, you're not going to get to that sweat point. But the more often you do it, your body temperature stays at a higher level, you start sweating.
Yep.
And so
And
that's
it's a different type of sweat.
and it's a
too.
different type of sweat. It's
Yeah.
a deep sweat. It's a deep detox sweat.
It smells bad, right?
For some people, it depends on your diet. But, you know, I've had a lot of clients, I had to work them through a process to get them to understand because they're like, I go in a steam sauna and I'm sweating in 5 minutes. And I'm like, you walk outside in Columbia, South Carolina, and 110 degrees, you're sweating.
Right.
Like, that doesn't mean you're detoxing. You're
Right.
sweating. So it's a different process and it does take time to do it. And you have to give yourself that time and opportunity to do it. But the ones who commit to it and stay with it, they're the ones that are like, okay, I can feel the difference now.
What about temperature? And I only know Celsius because I use my parents a lot in Canada, but my dad will only go to 54 Celsius, and I always wanted it 60. and it's always just kind of a battle about
Is that infrared?
You got to convert.
what.
that
Do you
for
know
us,
what?
Brett.
Can you see what that is?
So is 50 going to be like, I think, would that be around 120 or something? Because I think 70 is 150 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds
We
right,
gotta
but
do
I don't.
some- We got
I
to do
don't-
math.
I think so. So our infrared saunas, if you do, we have 2 different programs. The 30-minute programs, go ahead.
122,
Yeah.
Is what?
That's
Is
pretty
what?
close.
50 degrees Celsius.
50. And what's
That's pretty
60?
It'd be about 130,
140.
140.
140.
Okay.
All right. So 120 to 140.
Yeah. So is it infrared sauna?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you would be totally cool because on our 30-minute programs, we typically run about 130 to 140.
Yeah.
We don't go anything over 140 in our infrared saunas because, like I said, at that point, you're cooking your insides.
I think
and-
that that's the max. At least that one, that was the max that it would go
Mm-hmm.
to is 140.
I mean, ours will go a little bit higher than that. We just don't allow it to.
Okay.
So that's why we don't just turn it on and let people control their temperatures because they'll turn it up to the max, not knowing what they're doing. And you can put yourself into a flu-like state by overheating yourself in the sauna.
What
So-
do you normally run at?
123, somewhere in there.
Oh, so soft.
It is pretty low,
So
actually.
I didn't know that I had to be prepped to give my temps. So I have a sunlight in my house, and that's.
That's what I use.
But the problem is it takes so long to heat up.
An hour.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's why a lot of times it's lower because by the time it gets, I crank mine all the way up, but I'm averaging probably 123, maybe up to 127.
Yeah.
Now, what I found, and I'm glad you touched on it, is if you do any sort of even if you're outside or you come from a workout where your core temperature's already elevated, you could get in there and it doesn't have
Yep.
to be that hot, and you are just the sweat is unbelievable.
You're exactly
You're
right. Yep.
pouring out of your
Yep.
body.
Summertime, especially where your body temperature is already up so much because of the heat outside, it doesn't take you nearly as long to get to that sweat
Yeah.
point. But the wintertime, definitely, it takes you that time.
And some people will sit in it and they'll go, like my wife, so she has a lower core temperature where she's like, she's like, is this doing anything? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, just wait. So she needs to be in it longer. How long would you say somebody should go? Like, is 30 minutes your cutoff or could somebody
45 minutes.
go? Okay.
Yep. You can go up to an hour. We don't offer an hour, but you can go up to an hour, especially if you're only getting to 120. You can definitely
You can
do
go
an
longer,
hour.
okay.
Yeah. We do 45-minute max temperature, 140, 141, and that's our cardio program. So that's just enough to get your cardiac system rolling,
Yeah.
get the blood pumping, and get you sweating pretty good.
And then to continue on that, I mean, so light is always an interesting, just in general, source for healing because I don't think we talk about it enough, and society's shied us away from the sun, which is the source of light. Do you utilize any? So you use red light therapy. Do you use any other colors? And because I've seen that there's each color of the rainbow has different things.
Healing.
Yes.
Yep. So in our saunas, we have chromotherapy, which is light therapy. We leave the list of all of the colors along with the remote. So if there's something specific that you want to target and we go over this, you're welcome to do that. It is how our brain actually takes that color and reflects it.
Yep.
So everything controlled by our brain. We can, I'm probably going to beat myself up for doing this, but you can heal yourself with your brain.
Yeah.
I always tell everybody, if you think yourself sick, you're going to be sick. If you get a tickle in your throat and you're like, dang, I'm getting a cold, you're going to get a cold because you've talked yourself into it.
Yes.
So
I don't even like verbalizing I'm sick. I don't say. We always say like we're healing. If there's any like snot coming out or anything, like yep, body's healing.
Yep. I'm
Yeah.
purging. That's what I normally do. So if I get a stuffy nose and I'm blowing my nose, I'm purging.
Right. Right.
So
Now, when you touched on sage, I've always wondered like how does that even work? Like what is sage? It's is it an actual herb itself or is it a
it's
combination?
a plant.
It's a
Yep, it's a
I think
plant.
we have some growing in our
Yeah.
backyard,
Do you?
actually.
Do
It
you?
smells good, yeah.
Yeah. So it is a plant. And for me personally, how I got connected with sage was through Native American means. So Native Americans use sage for cleaning, energy, and preparing for celebrations and different things like that. They also use incense. So a lot of places use incense as
Yeah.
well. Because I am a place where a lot of people come for respiratory issues and different things like that, I actually use a sage essential oil
Okay, good.
for mine. So it doesn't necessarily involve any kind of smoke. We also require no smoking for our services because of, people who are there for allergies, sinus issues. I get a lot of COPD clients who have found great benefit with halotherapy in the salt cave.
Yeah.
They come about once a week, twice a week.
And it's literally, so you use the oil, but if somebody wanted to say, like, they would just take the plant, dry it out, kind of light it up, and just
You
walk
can buy
around.
sage bundles.
Nice.
They already come together. There's a lot of places here in Columbia you can get them. Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes I want to just sage Randy. You know what I mean? I
What'd
kinda
you
wanna
do?
carry around.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you need a lot for certain things and then a little bit, or is it just you do it and then it's
You just do it. You
Yeah.
just do it, yeah. And a big part of that too, I'm always going to bring it back to intentions.
Yep.
It's all in your intentions of what you're setting your intention to be. So it was funny because when we were chit-chatting and talking earlier when I first got here, we were talking about my business. And, people look at my prices and they're like, man, you're really cheap. And I'm like, no, I'm not cheap. I'm affordable. This is something that needs to be accessible for people. Right. And in order for that to happen, it has to be cost effective because I'm not reaching out to rich people who have money who can go and get whatever they want done when they're sick. I'm reaching out to the masses. And so for me, with my business, I set my intentions to be an affordable, accessible option for all people. I don't charge somebody more because they have the money to pay it. And I don't, I just stay at my simple price.
Yeah, it's great.
It's got to be.
That's awesome.
So if someone lit grass on fire with the same
Yes.
intention as sage, would you argue
See-
that sage with good intention is better than a piece of grass with good intention?
I would, just because, the Native Americans told me that and they're much older than me.
See,
Right.
that's what I'm getting at with the brand thing. I
Yeah.
feel like if you know that it's grass and you still go through the same stuff, you would just think you could still have a good intention, but it's like, nah, something's a little off. Just like the shirt you wear that looks like Lululemon that
little
isn't
off.
Lululemon. You're like, all right, something just is a little
Yeah,
off.
I was just asking the question. I don't know. I've never tried something like that with
Oh.
an off thing and told them that it wasn't
Yeah.
or that it was. I
Yeah,
don't know.
me
But
neither.
I'm going to check. Maybe I'm going to check the clarity in every essential oil bottle.
Yeah, and I think essential oils is something too that you have to be really careful with. I think that there's always some, essential oil companies out there that may try to lower their, concentration
Oh,
or
for
whatever.
sure.
And, I think there's stories out there. And so you do have to find somebody that you trust and make that relationship with and kind of go from there.
And the supplement company's terrible with this.
Yes.
Someone that's really passionate about it builds a good brand. We all trust it. And then they sell it out to Nestle. And then
Yep.
Nestle starts putting junk in it
That's exactly right.
basically until the brand tanks.
Right.
And
And
then they just go buy another one from someone else who just got a good reputation, sells it off.
That's exactly
and then
right.
Nestle buys it.
And I'm all for capitalism. I think it's great that we have the opportunity to build businesses and we can make money and we can do all these things. But as long as we stay true to what the true value is of it, I've grown my business and I'm profitable, which is great. But I did it honestly and I continue to do it honestly. I think that the moment when you're operating a business and it's not with the honesty and the truth, and you start doing stuff like that, that's when people get angry. And I think that's why you're starting to see a shift with people in corporations and why they don't like corporations, because they're like, hey, you're lowering the quality of this stuff, but you're still making the buck,
Right.
And so it's not fair for the small business who has put their heart and soul into it and built it up and delivered a great product, and they eventually sell out to that bigger company. It's not fair to that small business that big company trashes it,
Right.
basically.
Because I go back and forth on that. Like in an ideal world, if it was really your intention to do this for people, you're not going to sell out to a big company. You're just going to keep doing it long term, and you're going to find someone else to.
In some cases, I think with some cases, people don't have anybody to carry it on.
Well, if you care enough, you find.
Yeah.
Like I could see if you're
Yeah.
being willy nilly about it, it would be hard to find someone to carry it
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah.
if it's really your life intention to do this, the idea
Sure.
that you can't find someone else that likes it,
Sure.
I think you could find, because we see that in the chiropractic world too, right? It's you could sell out to a venture capital firm or whatever, or you could find someone who really likes it, or in the supplement company, you could sell it out to Nestle, or you could sell it to someone else that really cares about it. I'm assuming it's in the Halo world too,
Halo
but I don't
world.
know. But maybe a smaller number of people who care about it. But I feel like so many people would be into that. Don't you think? Like if you had to spend the next 40 years finding a person who could take over your company and keep it going for Columbia, you could
Dude.
find a person.
So I've been trying to hire somebody for 3 months to help me. I just have like severe anxiety. Like I don't have
Yep.
anxiety running my business. I don't have anxiety running my life. But to hire somebody to
Right.
work alongside me, I have huge anxiety.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to find somebody to take over my business, no, I probably would never
But
be
it's
able
a
to do
40,
it.
think of it like 40 years.
Yeah.
In 40 years, you got to find the person.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't,
mean-
maybe they'll,
It would probably be one of my
It'll morph.
clients. It would probably
Yeah.
be one of my
Yeah,
clients.
see that.
Like, at
Someone
that
whose life
point,
was
yeah.
changed by it, and then they want to spend their time doing that.
Absolutely, yeah. And that would probably be the intention that I set. If I knew that my daughter didn't want to take my business, which she probably will not, and roll with it, not because she doesn't believe in what I do, she's just going to med school to be a neurologist. So I think for me it would be, finding somebody who has been with me, understands what we do, why we do it, and then, go from there. If it's an owner financing for that person and let them take the reins and build on it and go from there, why not? That's kind of my intention and my goal and what the business is.
You got to send your daughter to chiropractic.
I know that wait a minute.
I mean-
what you're doing is so far from a MD
Yes.
neurologist world.
Not necessarily. Our vibroacoustic. So since you brought up vibroacoustic,
Yeah,
like I
so
said,
I'm
it's
getting into this.
Cocoon,
out of
you
the
call
world.
it
Yeah,
cocoon
cocoon.
therapy.
Yep. So we partner.
Or no, the cocoon experience.
Cocoon experience. Yep. It's a vibroacoustic sound bed. So there's 6 transducers built into the sound lounge bed, and we partner it with Brain Tap, which is a headpiece out of Wilmington by a neurologist. When people do this experience, like they have a total out of body experience. If they have unhealed trauma, it brings up that trauma. I've had people who did the service and they're bawling tears from just stuff that they had bottled up.
Yeah.
My daughter's inquisitive mind is, what about this service is making people bring that up? Like, what is happening in the mind when they're doing this? And can this be the future of helping people in their mental health with past trauma that they've just bottled up inside and never worked through?
Yeah, that's good. I think
So-
neurology is definitely the right field. I think she's probably not a dweeb, though. So she shouldn't be in the medical world. She should be a chiropractor. Because I think that
She's a
would...
science nerd. She's a science nerd, 100% science nerd.
Have you ever heard of Joe Dispenza and like some of his work? Because he's
Yes.
yeah, and he was a chiropractor.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay.
See, nobody knows that. That was his background. He had that injury, and then he pieced together his spine through laying in a hospital bed, just visualizing everything coming back together.
Oh, wow.
It was his story's wild, and then it grew into what he is now. But I love the whole meditation side of things. Do you guys do or plan to do in the future like guided meditation or any of that stuff?
So we do that in our Zen Den. Our Zen Den are these zero gravity shiatsu massage chairs. We actually just upgraded all of them, and the new chairs are phenomenal. Like,
Sweet.
yeah, so it does compression and full body, basically, all along the back side. It does your shoulders, your neck, all that kind of stuff. It does what we call a Thai stretch, where it'll squeeze on your shoulders and the leg piece will bend down so it expands your spine and stretches you.
Sweet.
We play guided meditations and affirmations during that service. That was the first service that we started using. Are you familiar with Muse? The EEG headpieces that they use for meditation and stuff. So we use it just for tracking purposes. It's an EEG that we put on the forehead. And so when you get in the service, for certain people, we don't do this for everybody, only if they agree to be under my, research. And so we put them in the massage chair and they do 20-minute guided meditation and affirmations. And we track like how long their mind was focused, how long their mind was calm, what their heart rate did. And so we had somebody who was at like 80 heart rate. By the time the 20 minutes was up, they were at 64. So we can see a steady decline in their heart rate as they were listening to the meditations and getting the massage chair. So a lot of times we do massage chairs for our meditation because people don't know how to meditate.
Yeah.
And I think if they fall asleep or, even if their mind isn't 100% focused on it, listening to it, subconsciously they're hearing it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing. So that's what happens with the cocoon as well. We do the music side of Cocoon, but if you wanted to, you could use Brain Tap in a totally different manner where they do two-person voices and one is talking to you, the other is talking to your subconscious mind.
Wow.
And
So
it's
you gotta really trust like
they're
how do you,
saying.
how do you trust
It's
it?
worked for me.
Okay.
It's worked for me. So I did there's like a 20-step program of bettering your life, basically. It's 20 different sessions. And so I've done that. And I mean, I've done it
Sweet.
for that. I've done it for anxiety. It kind of helps with anxiety as well, just ways to reduce your anxiety.
Yeah.
So
Do you think that they on TV commercials utilize any of these techniques to train our brains?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
see,
called
that's what's-
branding.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Lululemon
I
branding.
was thinking the same thing that you just talked about because I thought it was in like cinemas, like
Yeah, in movies,
In
too.
movies, they would study how much Diet Coke would get sold, and if they had the underlying message that you couldn't even hear, their Diet Coke sales would go through the roof for whatever they were saying. People just get up and go buy Diet Coke and didn't realize why.
Well, I say it straight up, even with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at any pharmaceutical ad, they'll be like, "Yep, that's me. I'm gonna go to my doctor and get
Right.
on Prozac. I'm gonna go to my doctor and get on Ozempic. And it's like, wait a second, it took the whole doctor side of out of everything, and you're
Yes.
self-diagnosing, which is a problem.
It's wild.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I can't believe we allow people to do it, but
I think it's one of the only countries in the world that can advertise directly
We
to
are.
the consumer.
we
Wow.
are.
Yep. So I'm still curious about your whole background. So you
Okay.
grew up. Give me the whole grow up story because
Oh,
how
gosh.
do you end up like? See, for us, we went down the weird chiropractic, like ugly stepchild to medicine route. So like we got exposed to I think everything that's not mainstream. That's how I always think of like, oh, all my friends we know about this stuff, but like the average person, if they weren't in a school like that or didn't have like grow up in a tribe, they just don't have access.
So I did not grow up with this at all. I grew up in West Palm Beach, Florida. I grew up to, I'm going to say it, a very poor family. So my goal in life was to not be my parents. That was my number one goal. And the biggest mistake with that was everything became about money. And so I put my body in it 120% and climbed that corporate ladder because that was my only way of
Right.
escaping what my childhood was. That is what led to the health problems and the life problems. And, at some point, when you have that conversation with your doctor and they're like, hey, well, let me go back. So I was 12. I fell asleep in school every day. My teacher finally called my parents and they're like, look, she needs to go to bed at night.
Right.
And they're like, she goes to bed at 8:00 at night. She wakes up at 7 for class at 8:30. Like, how much more sleep could she
Sure.
possibly need? So we started diving into the Western medicine, and blood tests and all this stuff. And what we found out was I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Yep.
That early.
That early.
Wow.
Yep. So we started doing needle biopsies and all that kind of stuff on goiters and all that. And they put me on levothyroxine, stayed on levothyroxine until I was 18. Every year from the age of 12 to 18, my levothyroxine had to be increased
Right.
to be able to do whatever it was. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. So I started researching, and it started at 18. I came across what we call armor thyroid, desiccated thyroid.
Yep.
It's basically pig thyroid.
Yep.
And I convinced my doctor to allow me to start taking that with the agreement that I would do as much blood work as we had to make sure all my levels were good.
Sure.
I was put on that at 18. I am 39 years old and have been on the same exact medication ever since.
Nice.
My numbers have never skewed, never changed, nothing. So that started the natural route for me. Then go ahead.
Well, so is that
Pig thyroid
Pig
seems
thyroid.
shocking,
Well, I've heard of that.
probably
You
to
know.
most people. Well, I've heard of it, but it's still.
Yeah.
If I was going to take it, it would still seem. I guess it's like liver or anything.
Yeah.
Like people are eating all kinds of organ meats from every animal right now.
You're exactly right. So a lot of people with anemia are actually going to grass-fed cows and eating liver in
Yeah.
order to help boost their red blood cell count. So, there's a lot of things out there naturally that we can do. And
Just nobody wants to talk about them, or you're
Nobody-
looked at like you're a nutbag.
Yes.
that's the problem.
But
Like
so-
people automatically judge you and criticize
Yes.
you because you're doing something outside of what we consider norm.
That's why I'm glad you're in Colombia. I'm
Yeah.
honestly, like, when our friend Dr. Tim Losby, shout out to him, he said he went to your spa, and I didn't hear about it, so I got excited and started looking at all your therapies, which I do want to get into so everybody hears this. But it's just good meeting more people that are on a different pathway to expose people so that they have an option. Like, to me, it's like we're not forcing people to go on salt or get adjusted or
Right.
whatever the therapy is, but know that it's out there, and it's most of the time a better choice than the pathway that they're on.
Right.
But like, so with your story though, did you start losing trust? Like, because for me, it was a trust thing. Like, once I got into chiropractic school, I was still very medically minded, had a medicine cabinet, grew up that's how I grew up. But then when you start getting exposed to little things where it's like, wait, there's this whole other, you could do this. And you could there's this. And nobody's ever mentioned that before. And it's very logical, and it's very, it just made sense. There's like no side effects. There was just like, everything was like, why isn't everybody doing
Why
this?
doesn't everybody? Exactly. So I think you touch on a very good point. It is a trust factor. I think that there are doctors out there that really do care. Like when they take the oath, it really is about the oath, and they do everything that they're supposed to do to make sure the client feels good and is healthy. And so for me, it takes a lot of research. Like, sit down and talk to a doctor. If the very first thing the doctor asks you is, how are you feeling? Are you depressed? Do you want some Prozac?
Right.
That should be a warning sign for you. That's not necessarily who you should be seeing and who
Right.
you should partner with, because a doctor is really going to be a partner for you. They're going to be somebody for you to work alongside when you don't feel well. And it shouldn't just always be a very first course of action, here, take this pill.
Yeah.
So it just shouldn't be that way.
And so you just started diving into, because
Natural.
your background, you went to college.
I was supposed to go to school for law school. I dropped out because I was
Nice.
pregnant. Yep. So I got an associate's degree with paralegal. So I worked in a law firm for a while, had my child. I was pregnant with twins. I miscarried one of them. We found out that my child had different blood type than me. I am Rh negative. So we had to do the whole ROGAM thing. I'm sure
Right.
that's a big hot topic out on
Yeah.
TikTok right now.
Oh yeah.
So we had to do that, and I had my daughter, kind of grew up. I focused a little bit more on natural stuff because I didn't necessarily, my daughter had eczema and they gave her a cream and it was
Right.
steroids. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, she's so young, she's absorbing all this in. So we started to find other means, other herbs, different things that we could do.
Yeah.
Salt is unbelievable for the skin.
Yeah.
I think that most people, especially young teenagers, when they come in, I'm like, when you go to the beach and you spend the week at the beach, your
Yes.
skin looks beautiful. You come back home, it's not anymore. I said, we have turned salt into like this big no-no. Stay away
Right.
from it. But salt's a natural element of earth. And for those who are biblical, I mean, it's salt of the earth. It talks about it in the Bible. So I think that, salt's a great thing. There's so many things that salt is good for, and we just kind of give it a bad rap.
Yeah. So you didn't have like a crazy grandma that like concocted lemon and honey and
Well,
rubbed it on your
I
body?
did.
Yeah.
I was only seeing her like a couple weeks during the summer, but she was, grew up on the farm.
Yeah.
Everything came out of the garden and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
I think it's sodium that gave salt a bad
Yes,
name, right?
yes.
Because all these food companies just load all their processed food with sodium, but it's not real salt. It's just
Correct.
it's just a chemical
Correct,
that they
yeah.
use to preserve it so it lasts
Yep,
a long time.
Yep.
But when you have real salt, like you have Himalayan salt, it's different in the body than what you're getting out of a packaged
Yeah.
food source.
Yes, and I always tell my clients too, salt is not bad for you. Eating salt, my preference is always pink Himalayan salt or Celtic sea salt.
Yep.
And the biggest reason why is most people don't realize when you buy salt and
Table
you
salt
eat
or-
it, it has microplastics in it. So it's allowed to have so many microplastics. That's why I'm such a huge proponent of no plastic in the ocean, because people don't realize you
Right.
dry that up, heat it up, grind it up, you're now putting microplastics into your body, which is causing inflammation.
Yeah.
So
There's even sugar in table salt sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you go buy salt from the store and look at the ingredients,
And sugar's
and there's
in it.
sugar in the salt. It's crazy. And
It
then
is.
salt gets a bad name, and everyone says, "Oh no, don't go have salt."
Yep.
but nobody's having real salt.
Yep. And I try to tell people a lot too. So we actually sell Cure hydration packets at our shop for people that do infrared saunas quite significantly. And the reason we do that is, one, we stay away from the sugar. It is sweetened with monk fruit and has pink Himalayan salt. And I try to tell everybody, you can drink as much water as you want.
Yes.
But unless you're
Randy.
replenishing your electrolytes, you're doing absolutely
So good.
nothing.
No, I agree
It's
with that.
so good.
Nothing
we have
for
a good
yourself.
we have a good friend, Dr. Mark Wolfman, and whenever we hang out with him, he literally just walks around telling people that they're not getting enough salt.
Oh my
And
gosh.
He
It's
just says
true.
it all day long,
And it's true.
And he'll
It's
say it to a
true.
random person. Anyone says any comment, his answer
It is so
"You're not
true.
getting enough salt."
And I tell people, the granules of pink Himalayan salt, put them in your water, squeeze some lemon, drink
Right.
it. And I always say, when you're dehydrated and you go to the hospital, what do you think they're hooking up to you?
Salt.
Saline. And saline is salt water. So if you're dehydrated, and this is a huge
And out
problem.
of a plastic bag though, with probably not Himalayan salt.
Right, yeah. This is one of the biggest problems that we're starting to see. Like, I'm starting to research it and read articles and different things like that. Probably years ago, there was a huge heat wave in Chicago, and like hundreds of people died from dehydration. And a lot of them are older. And so the connection is, we're telling these older people to go salt-free diets because of high blood pressure. And then they're in these extreme heat issues and dehydrating and dying. And
Yep.
it's like, well, wait a second, you're taking the salt out of the body.
Yep.
And so, it's just those kind of things, when it goes back to trust, it's that factor
Right.
that I really have a problem with. I think that, because they're not going to say, oh, wait, high blood pressure, we can't put saline bag on him, kind of thing. But
I found that the less research I look at, the better that I do.
So I'll give you this. I kind of felt the same way
Yeah.
until I started working a little bit with USC. I am working with USC a little bit on some stuff with research. I've partnered with a couple doctors there, and they are looking at doing even more research on holistic modalities
Sweet.
with us. So I think that you're starting to see that curve. There is a big section with NIH that is alternative medicine. They've done some research on acupuncture and different things like that. So I think you're starting to see that a little more.
Right.
So I try to tell people, don't go completely away from science, because the science and research is there. We have never in our entire time.
It just changes.
It changes, yeah.
Well, then that's
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, the science of last year that told us to do this now just changed this year to do the exact opposite.
Right.
That's part of why
Conflicting.
I just don't. Here's what I like logic. I like, does it stand the test of nature and time? Like, if we just looked at animals that are just living out in the wilderness that don't have science and don't have our education, they do pretty well.
Yep.
And what are they do? Like, we just don't think of all the things that we do on a day-to-day basis that are so against nature. Like, even, like we talk perfumes and different and makeups and hair care and soaps and plastics, and these are the things that, of course, there's going to be consequences to those. So logically, if we just move closer to, let's minimize our exposure to that and more maximize our exposure to nature, salt and this, I want to get into the sound stuff because that's cool to me. That all just makes sense. I don't need an article on it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need 10 articles. I don't need anything. And I don't need people telling me that go read something else that negates it, because I'm like, well, there's no side effects that are negative. And what's the loss in this?
Right, exactly. And that's where we come into play. So a lot of times, the only thing that you can't really do at my facility is, if you're pregnant, you can't do infrared saunas and red light therapy. And it's because of the amount of heat that puts
Right.
out, and your body temperature is already up. So for the most part, that's the only thing you can't do. For the cocoon, we don't do the lights if you have any kind of traumatic brain injury or seizures, because that
Sure.
can trigger you to go into a seizure. So everything else you can 100% do, which was one of the purposes behind. Like, I didn't want it to be a limiting factor
Right.
that people had an excuse as why they couldn't do it.
Yep.
I get a lot of questions when it comes to halotherapy with people with high blood pressure. They're like, well, my doctor has me off of salt. He doesn't want you eating salt.
Right.
I said, did he tell you can't go to the beach? Well, no. Well, then you're
Well,
breathing in salts.
And I got a bunch of rants. I want to touch on that for a second too. Here's why, because it pisses me off, some of these doctors. Because here's the thing. These people that want to be well and want to have lower blood pressure, right, have been listening to the same doctor for 20 years and they've not gotten off the blood pressure pill.
Yep.
But they're scared to do anything because their doctor doesn't agree with it.
100%.
To me, I think, well, you should choose a different doctor. This is my little side rant on that, because they're using a person that has not gotten them healthier over the course of X amount of years, that they want the result of, how do I get my blood pressure into a range where I don't need a pill?
Yes.
Unless if that's their goal, is like, well, I just want to be on a pill the rest of my life, then that's fine.
Yep.
But we've convinced ourselves, or these patients have convinced themselves, to just be stuck listening to shitty advice for a long time, but they can say that my doctor says not to do A, B, C. And it's like, well, what if he's wrong or she's wrong?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little example to that. We were chit-chatting earlier. My mom was on 14 different medications.
That's insane.
From all of her different doctors.
And
no doctor communicated with each other to look and see. And
Yes.
so now she's in kidney failure, renal kidney failure due to it. And I'm like, so she had one doctor, a nephrologist who was in Greenville, who got her down to 7 medications over the course of time.
Yeah.
So she, of course, is no longer with the hospital system
Right.
that she was employed with, because she's getting people off of pills, not putting people
Right.
on pills.
Yes.
So my mom goes back to the doctor, the new doctor that's there, and they're like, oh, you need to go on this pill. This is going to draw sugar out of your kidneys, and then you need to go on this pill because it's going to raise your blood pressure. My mom's like, no, I don't need to. I don't have to.
Right.
And so we just continue to follow this one doctor. But I think you're right. I think people need to interview their doctors, not go to a doctor and say, this is, I'm going to take all of my advice from you. You need to interview them. You need to see what their beliefs are, see if they're going to listen to you. Because if you go in and tell them what's wrong and they're like, oh, well, you sprained your ankle.
Right.
Take some Tylenol and go home.
That's always my thought, is I'm here to give you advice. I'm not here to force you to do anything. I want you to, I do think I'm right in a lot of what I'm telling you, and I hope that I am. Otherwise, I wouldn't be telling you that. But still, it's your choice at the end of the day, because it is your body. Some of these doctors put people into such fear that they're like, I can't change anything.
Absolutely.
And then I would question, even with your mom, it's like, well, show me the research article that shows 14 different medications were studied on an individual and what the effects of those are.
Right.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
They don't do that stuff.
Nope.
I think if you're on more than 2 medications, there isn't a literature article out there that you could show that you should be taking that concoction.
Together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Your mom is the experiment. These people are the experiments.
Yep.
It's nuts.
And it's at the cost of their life. And then what do
Yes.
you do? Now you have more medical bills because you've gone down this rabbit hole of trying to stay alive in all these different modalities. And, I have this often conversation with my husband, and I'm like, it really, excuse me, I'm going to use this word, pisses me off that we have a specialist for everything.
Yep.
You go to your family doctor and it's this, and they're like, oh, well, you need to go see this person, or you need to go see this person. And I get it. There are specialists that work on certain things, but at the end of the day, somebody needs to be the glue that is holding all of it together for that patient. It's not send you to your cardiologist and I don't know anything that's happening now. You need to know that cardiologist has put you on this medication and this is what's happening. Because you're that primary care physician. That's what primary care means.
Yes.
You're the primary guy.
Which is chaos. In fairness to the
It is.
family medicine,
It is.
trying to communicate with all those different specialists, I could see it being chaos.
I agree. But that overall, what that tells me and just proves my point is that we have a broken healthcare system.
Yes, 100%.
That has to be fixed. I mean, the answers are all there. Everything that we can put as what is going wrong is there. It's just, you got to have somebody to have the balls to start fixing it.
Right.
It's not going to be. Insurance companies are
Nope.
not going to go for a new system. Pharmaceutical companies are not going to go for a new system.
And the reason they don't fix it is because they don't know how. They're afraid to take on that to fix it. And so when you don't know how to fix it, that's why it just keeps getting swept under the rug. And meanwhile, people just continue down the path of insanity.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I think it really just needs to be people take responsibility for their own health.
Yep.
instead of giving responsibility to somebody else.
Yep.
If everybody did that, it would radically change.
You're
the healthcare
exactly right.
system.
You're exactly right. When the moment that you make the decision on whether that person is your person or not, that's when the hospital system is going to start to realize.
Right. I think, here's a little solution. What if we gave everybody $5,000 a year, every year of their life, to put towards health? That's it. So at birth, here's your $5,000 for this year for all of your health care, right? And it just keeps going every single year. So the older you get, and if you've invested that into, salt spa and massage and gym memberships and supplements and whatever, we would then see, like, unless there's a crisis. So I think insurance would be crisis based, like you get hit by a car, you don't need to tap into your health bank. But if not, it's like just use it for what you like in health. If that's medicine or if it's elective procedures, go for it. But then that way it just is what it is. And if you run out, you run out, and it's survival of the fittest at that point.
I think
Or you
you're
need
right.
to know somebody that's wealthy,
Yeah.
like your parents in West Palm Beach.
No.
So let's touch on the services. I don't know if we mentioned the spa name. Did we mention the spa name?
I think she mentioned it as
Shvaas.
Shvaas.
I want to
yes.
know the cocoon. Can
And-
you explain the
hold on.
cocoon when you go there? Because I, when you swaddle a baby, that's how I picture you doing
You're
it.
exactly
Like that
right.
you lay in a
Weighted
blanket
blanket.
and you,
Yep.
yeah.
So you're on the sound lounge bed, and we cover you with a 20-pound weighted blanket. And by the way, I should totally sell weighted blankets, because the amount of people that get
want
on
'em,
Amazon and buy them after their first time having a weighted blanket
Yeah.
is unreal. So when you lay down, we have a headpiece that comes down over your eyes. It uses binaural beat music that correlates to the blinking of the blue lights and the vibration of the bed. So if at any given time, you can have vibration by the head, by the feet, moving all the way up your body. I have people that get off and they just feel like their entire body is just in motion, which is so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
So you have Salt
Yep.
Spa. You hang out in there breathing salt.
Yep, 45
How many
minutes,
people
yep.
go in? Yeah, how many people are in there with you?
So if it's a public session, it's 6 people. You can book the whole cave privately and have 8.
Nice.
Yep, and we do pranayama yoga in there, which is all breath work. Most people don't realize
Do you have to pose like you're not moving your body?
No, you're laying down
Oh,
the
nice.
entire time. It's all breath work.
Nice.
So it's all taking your body out of that fight or flight mode using breath work. It's amazing.
Yep.
It's amazing. So we do that twice a month. And then we also do once a month acoustic sound therapy with crystal bowls, Tibetan
How
sound
about
bowls.
bongos?
No bongos. No.
I feel like drums would be a great little.
We do mostly
I've
binaural
never
beat
heard of
music.
that.
Yep, everything is zen, not
Bongos.
chaos.
Okay.
Zen, not chaos. So
You know what this is missing? Bongos.
however, the guy who does my acoustic sound therapy
Yeah.
is like the president of the drum circle for
Knew it.
Columbia,
I
so he
knew
does
it.
have
There it
drums.
was. I had a feeling. So you have Salt Spa.
Shout out to Dick Moons, by the way.
Dick
He's
Moons.
my guy. Yeah.
infrared sauna. How many saunas do you have?
We have 2,
Nice.
and they're 2-person saunas. So
And they're the sunlight near,
Sunlight
mid,
and
far.
impulse. Yep.
Beautiful. And how many people can go in those? Do you have a single?
2-person.
2-person saunas.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Then you have the meditation Zen Den. That's the,
There are 2 rooms, and there are 4 chairs. So 2 chairs in each room.
and you're just, you lay and you listen to affirmations.
Guided
and-
meditations.
Nice.
Yep.
And then the hydra massage. We didn't touch on that.
Heated water pressure.
Okay.
So most people, and this was an interesting service when I first created my business and brought this in. It was more for like the doctors who were behind my building and the lawyers who were across the street in the courthouse, somewhere where they can go away 15, 30 minutes, reset, decompress, whatever. After I was in business, probably for the first 6 months, I had a client come in, and this story kind of choked me up a little bit. So if I choke up, I'm really sorry. I go in, she did a 30-minute hydro massage, and I go in and she's crying, and I'm like, oh shit, like, did she get hurt? What's wrong with her back? Like, water pressure? And we get to talking, and she's like, my sister was sexually abused all of her childhood. She's never had a massage in her life. She's like, I'm going to buy a gift certificate if that's okay. And so I'm like, yeah, of course.
Right.
So we get her gift certificate. The sister comes. She does her 30-minute hydro massage. I go in, and she's bawling tears. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like,
Right.
so we get to talking about it, and I'm like, the
Never think about
intention
that.
was one way,
Yeah.
but what, the universe, God, whoever you want to believe, told me was this is a resource for people who have significant trauma.
Yeah.
Never overstep that boundary of having somebody touch them or getting undressed or anything else. And it gives them that same somewhat
Right.
release option where they can start
good.
that healing process. It was like so powerful for me. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
That's wild. I mean, I never even thought about that, but because my mom doesn't like massage, and I don't know why. I mean, nobody in my family likes
like
getting
massage.
touched.
Yeah.
In general, we
Yep.
just not like touchy feely. Like when we have like when we say goodbye to each other, we like do a quick hug and a 2 taps, and that's like the joke. It's like, all right, let's get the 2 taps in.
Yep. I'm the
Um,
same way. I don't like
But I
massages.
think
just
I think she would like the hydro massage.
Yep.
And then the cocoon experience we just talked about, and so that's vibroacoustic therapy. Is there any? So I've heard of different machines that you can tune in the sound to even target like viral things and
Yes.
bacterial things. Is that what this is?
Yes.
It does do that.
Yes. So our cocoon is based off of the 7 chakras. Are you familiar with 7
Yep.
chakras? 7 energy points. So what we are doing with the vibration is putting those back into vibration of what they should be running at.
Nice.
So each one does something specifically different. And the same person can do each one and have a totally different experience out of it.
Right.
I always start people out on the root chakra because that's where our safety net is. That's where our emotions come from. That's where people hold everything.
Yeah.
And so that's why I start there and then kind of work their way up when they do it moving forward. So, yeah, I have a client who comes every Saturday from Aiken just to do cocoon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
And how long are those sessions? That's a
30 minutes,
30
$35.
Nice.
Yep.
Sweet.
It's really
And then
great.
red light therapy, is that in combination with anything else, or is that
Yes.
that's a separate therapy?
Yep. So we partner it with a chakra PEMF mat, pulsed
Oh, nice.
electromagnetic field. So for those who are familiar with grounding or earthing,
Yes.
basically it's 7.4 hertz that we put through that mat when you're laying on it, and we partner it with red light over top of you.
Nice.
Yep.
Now, and have you talked or looked into grounding a lot? Like I've seen people where they're
Oh,
putting a
yes.
wire out their bedroom and putting
I've
it
done
into
that.
the.
I
Yeah,
sleep on
that's cool.
a grounding mat that's plugged into my ground outlet.
Yeah.
So tell how does that? Because I've always thought about that. So you plug it into the ground.
The ground, yeah. So my mattress my mattress pad that's over my mattress,
Yep.
it has a plug-in that you plug into the ground part of an outlet. Of course, it's not going to work if your house is not grounded, but if your house
Right.
isn't grounded, you shouldn't be living in it. So,
And how do you find that out? Is that
your electrical
comes with a
company, yeah,
test.
it comes with a tester
Well, yeah, the one
too.
that I have came
yeah.
with a tester,
yeah.
and it'll show you if it's
if it's
green
grounded or not.
yeah.
gotta get
But
that.
your electrical company should be able to tell you if it's grounded too. But it's funny that you brought this up because I was just reading an article about a farmer who is starting to test copper, like they
Yes,
take
with
a copper
the
line
plants.
and put it along the plant and
seen
throw it
that
into the
too.
ground, and they're seeing like enormous growth out of it.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my gosh! So I'm working on that experiment now.
I've never heard of this. So
Yes.
copper's helping the plant grow.
Yeah, so copper is conduit. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you have that electrical current from Earth, okay, so think about it. If we're not meant to be grounded, then why do we ground our buildings?
Think about that.
We never
Randall.
had we never had
I always thought it was
shoes.
for lightning.
Like we never had shoes, and so then all of a
Was it?
sudden
Am I talking about a different thing?
we built
I don't-
shoes.
do we? Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you got to be barefoot outside
yes,
all the
yes,
time. That's I 100% agree.
And when I
I
explain
don't know
it,
if sand or grass matters.
it does.
You think it does?
No,
different
it doesn't
things?
matter. No,
Oh,
it doesn't matter.
they
It's
both-
still
they're
the
both
element.
same.
Water, same way. Water
Yeah.
meant's a natural element, and so it flows. I always explain it to my clients when we start talking about grounding. What's the very first thing you do when you go to the beach?
Take your shoes off.
Take your shoes off, kick your feet down in the sand, and all of a sudden you feel
Great.
you're grounding. Like it's just that's what that is. That is that electrical current of grounding your body.
Yep.
I think
We're
there
all
might be
energy.
something wrong with me because I don't experience that.
You don't?
As soon as I go with my
so-
whole family,
That's what I mean. That's why his filter generally
it
just
doesn't
not a
make
good
sense.
filter.
No, like last. So we went to Isle of Palms last week, and my in-laws, everybody like couldn't wait to get their feet off, their feet in the sand. They're just upset. I'm like, I don't think I want.
He's out there wearing socks.
I mean, yeah, no, I wore sandals until I got there, and then when it was like time, then I went in the ocean, and it was fun and everything. But it wasn't like I can't wait to get my feet in the sand.
Do you like to swim?
Yeah, love swimming.
You like water?
Mm-hmm.
So you probably feel extremely relaxed when you're in water.
I like being I like being in the water.
So for them, it's sand. For you, it's water. You
could
just have
be.
to find your element. And for me personally, like in
yeah.
my own
Water
research,
guy.
You're
Big
the water
Yeah.
guy.
It's like Pokemon.
Yeah,
so
that feels right.
start researching your zodiac sign. You know, your zodiac sign kind of relates back to what grounds you:
Is that like Aries?
earth, air, fire,
Oh,
water.
That's me.
Yeah, buddy.
Water.
You're
Yep.
probably water for sure.
Snow. Is snow one?
So wait, what combats? What's bad? Is water also a bad symbol for like fire? Maybe I guess if you're a fire person element.
I'm not really sure.
Oh, I'm interested.
I'm
Here-
not all into art.
Well, here's
like,
why I was wondering about that. My wife was saying, "What is it with me and water? I have a lot of events in life that revolve around like water torturing me. Like our building got flooded. We had my home water filtration system just broke the other day and like flooded our basement. There's just been a ton of
and
things.
you're a fire sign, I guess.
I don't know. That's
Oh.
but it just made me think maybe I'm a fire sign.
Is
Either
it based on
water-
when you're born? Is that how you know?
astrology.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah,
Look that up.
you know,
Brent. I'm
Scorpio,
December
Sagittarius,
19th,
Libra,
1983.
whichever one you are.
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. Oh, so you are a fire sign.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
that's
Sagittarius
it.
is a fire sign.
Does that mean
Aries.
I'm getting attacked by the universe?
I think
I'm
you're
not-
air sign. Sorry.
Air sign.
I think so.
That
That
might
might
feel
be-
better than water.
He
I mean, I
loves
like being
wind.
in the water,
He
but
loves wind.
I could be wrong though.
I don't.
I don't know a whole lot of Aries.
It says Aries is fire.
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 Oh,
What about Sagittarius?
Aries is fire. Sagittarius is also fire.
Yeah.
I'm air. I'm Gemini.
That's why you like frisbee.
so are you familiar with astrology? Like, have you dove into astrology or
Not
anything?
deep,
oh my
but
God,
I
you
feel
should.
like I believe it.
You,
I don't
you
think
have
it's a
to.
lot of
I think I
personality
don't
traits.
believe it.
There's a lot
Really?
of personality traits that match.
100%.
Yeah, I believe a lot of energy things, but I think it makes sense that if you're born in the winter, you're going to see the world in a different way than if you're born in the middle of the summer.
That's interesting.
Or if you're born in spring.
What about born at night versus day?
I guess it depends if you're born outside. I don't know if it would matter. I don't-
You should definitely. So
What? It
Were the lights
it would
on
be
or
pretty
lights off?
yeah, it would probably be pretty similar either way.
I have a good friend who is deep into astrology, and so she did my birth chart. We went over all kinds of different things, and they all make sense. Like, so I'm a Libra. I'm a Libra through and through. I'm somebody that I see both sides of the fence. When you come to me and say the sky is blue, I'm probably going to look at you and go, well, it's really white because there's white clouds there. It's not just blue. I kind of see both sides of the card no matter what. It drives my husband absolutely crazy because anytime he comes to me, I'm always going to come back and go, well, what about this? And
Yeah.
it's going to be the opposite.
Yeah.
So, and that's really what it is for Libra. Libra is all about justice. Their symbol is, the justice symbol. So for me, that is what I deal with every day in life. Like when I see things are
hate
unfair.
injustice.
Yes, I hate
I
it.
hate
like
injustice,
it
too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Tom's big on that. too.
Where
Yes.
is Libra? Is that October?
October.
Yeah. Yeah.
October 19th. Yep.
October 19th, you turned 40 this year?
I do.
Wow.
I do.
I turned 40 December 19th.
Ah.
You guys are like, we're born 60 days
What
apart.
are you? Water symbol?
Libra is air.
Air.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I got to dive deeper.
Which
in that.
kind of goes back to the whole idea, like it was not intentional, but Shvaas is means breathe in Hindu.
Oh, yeah.
We do halo therapy. All of our business pranayama is about breathing.
Air.
And so
Yeah.
it just all makes sense how it all comes into play without us ever even know it.
And there's no direct, yeah, that's the thing.
Here's
His
my
filter-
problem.
No, his
Listen,
filter's
I have a
off.
weird filter.
That's
Here's
why
the
you
thing.
can't
I've said
compare him to anybody average.
I've talked to people and I've said, I said something like, oh yeah, they're and then I just chose one because I didn't know any. They're a Sagittarius. They can be really serious, but they let their guard down sometimes. And they're like, oh yeah, that's true. And then I was like, but that person, that's an Aries. They can get really fired up if they're passionate about something, but they're not passionate about everything. And they'd be like, yeah, that's true. And I was just saying both sides of everything. And everyone was just like nodding, like, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. But I was like, if you can say that about anybody, like they get thirsty sometimes.
Yeah.
But if they've had
I
enough
mean,
water, they're not thirsty anymore. And you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that is true
Oh,
about
that's
me.
so
That's
good.
totally those
Yep.
Sagittarius.
That's good.
You should totally have a birth chart done.
Yep.
Somebody who does a birth chart can sit down and tell you and talk about things, and then when they tell you
The
about
year
it,
that I was
it's like-
born, the day that I was born.
So
Is
it's
that
not
what it
only
means?
so what you have to have is your day of birth, the time of birth, and where you were born, because that will tell you
Day
whether
of
it's a
conce-
north
I know
node
where
or
I was
south node.
conceived, too.
Oh boy.
It's so cool though, because once you get that birth chart, like they'll tell you where your houses are with the planets and tell you different things, and you'll be like, oh shit, never even realized that. But it's all written in the stars. I
Yeah.
mean, when they literally say written in the stars, it's written in the stars.
Can you, so here's what I worry about with that. Can you change outcomes then? Because then sometimes you hear that and you're like, oh my God, it's all set up.
I don't necessarily, and when I worked on my, because we did a women's group in our cave last year,
Yeah.
and it was called Rising Phoenix, and it was basically, during the whole push of all of this stuff happening with women late last year, and so my friend Noemi, who is an acupuncturist here locally, phenomenal person, does a lot of ancient Chinese medicine. She's my cupping person too.
We need her on the
Yeah,
podcast.
let me know.
Does she use
'cause
the cupping
she's-
with the smoke? Does she?
She
Yeah,
does like
I don't
the
know many
real
people that-
cupping.
yeah,
Yes.
not many people do
yes. Nope. She is my girl, so I'll hook you up with her.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah,
phenomenal.
I love that.
That's who you get your birth chart from too.
She does that?
Yep.
Would
yep.
she do it
so
live on
that's
me?
probably.
Yeah,
I mean,
that'd
if
be
you
cool.
wanted to, yeah.
right.
We're
So
getting
when
her
we
on.
did Rising
need
Phoenix,
that.
that's what part of that
Sounds
was
awesome.
was our birth chart. And so what our birth chart told us was how we interact with people of other astrology means. So
Yeah.
like for me, it was something with a Sagittarius. My husband's a Sagittarius.
Smart.
I had to.
Smart choice.
No, I don't.
It's the
Some
best- it's the
Sagittariuses
best
can
one
get
out
along,
there.
but
From
they have to
what
be the
I've
right
gathered-
Sagittarius.
No, from what I've gathered, it's the best symbol out there.
So for him, like it taught me how I needed to communicate with him, because a lot of times things would just blow up and I'm like, damn, like everything always blows up. And so when we went over it and I got to Sagittarius, she's like, this is kind of how you handle Sagittarius. And our
What would be
relationship
an example? Can you give an
changed.
example? Because Tom's is
So instead of me always coming to the defense of something, just kind of roll with it. Okay, like just breathe. You don't
even
have
if
to
it's an
answer right away.
injustice.
Yeah, and it's really
Then
hard
you
for
don't
me.
say
It's
anything.
really hard for me. No, it's not that I don't say anything. I just pause. Rather than jumping right to it automatically, I have to pause for a minute because I have to let him think about it, that he won the conversation,
Yeah, that's important.
until I come back with my response. And then once I come back with my response, after he has cooled down, because fires heat up quick. Yeah, once he
Brandy.
cools down,
I do get up quick.
yeah. Once he cools down, we can have that conversation. So, prime
Yeah.
example, just before we got here, we had a leak in our ceiling.
See,
And-
it's water.
At your house?
Against-
Was
And
that
so-
your house or your business?
My house.
Yeah.
And so, right above the dryer, first thing he just went berserk, like cussing the house, everything else. And I'm just like, it's just water. Like, it's just water. And so we started to figure it out. By the time it was all said and done, I'm like, dude, just don't explode. Like,
Yeah.
you exploding does nothing but raise your blood pressure.
Yep.
And now you're
That's good.
exhausted.
Now, do these readings, do the astrology readings always end positive? Like, I feel like they have to, your story has to go towards this positive route. Otherwise, it'd be
mean,
like, holy shit.
I don't know, because everybody is totally different. For me, the reading was more along the lines of how I need to communicate with people in life.
Gotcha.
Like the different astrology people, like how I communicate with them effectively to where they understand, where I'm coming from.
Okay.
So it's totally cool. Something you should definitely have done. It's cool.
Nice.
I could see there being things in there that would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes I'll also see the other side where everything has to do with the sign. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's one of my favorite sayings is, for every mile of road, there's 2 miles of ditch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably true in this world too.
Yeah, probably. And I think, it's astrology wise, written in the stars. Yeah, I think that anybody can shift it if they consciously know it, but
Do you think the earth is round?
do I have to answer?
It's up to you. But because we're talking about stars, there's a lot of debate that the flat earthers might be onto something.
You think so?
Well, here's what they're saying, and I'm moving more towards the middle, which is probably bad to say on the podcast because now everybody's gonna. I already have enough weird stuff. But if we're a ball flying through space at the pace we are, how are the stars not? They're always in the same spots.
Okay, so here's my answer.
Yeah,
You probably,
I need
and it
this.
might confuse you even more.
Okay.
So, in order to generate energy, you have to be moving, right?
Yep.
How does flatness rotate?
How does flatness rotate?
So, if you're a flat Earth, how's a piece of paper rotate?
Like a microwave tray, where it
But
goes
that's
in a
round.
circle. Yeah, so that's what the flat earthers are
So
saying.
we're flat like this, and we're spinning like this.
They're saying it's flat like a pizza, and they're saying that the crust of the pizza would be Antarctica, which is like, okay, that's interesting. And so it spins like that. I'm telling you, the more you look into it, it gets a little
But
like,
then the
wait a minute,
axis
I gotta.
and like
I'm with you. I think
the
it's all
axis,
nuts.
Like how
They have explanations for all this crap, and this is the only reason I'm bringing it up because I don't want to get too deep into people thinking I'm a flat earther yet. Is kind of like health, where we grew up just going, yeah,
Okay.
you get a headache, you take a Tylenol.
yeah.
Your appendix is not good, throw it out,
Yep.
cut it out. And it's like if we don't be open to question it and hear these people on because we're looked at as crazy, right?
Sure.
And what we're talking about here, breathing in salt and
Sure.
vibration, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the vibration really people think I'm crazy. When they go on
Intention.
Cocoon, they're like, "What in the hell
Yes,
are we doing?"
yes. And that's the only reason I'm open to hear. I want to hear both sides.
Sure.
And and anything now that's mainstream, I'm just like, I'm just not 100%
So
like.
now you have to do a birth chart because I have to see if your rising sign is Libra.
Yeah.
Because if you have to hear both sides, you've got Libra somewhere in
Yeah,
there.
and I don't like injustice. That's like
Yeah.
one of my big things.
So it's probably a rising
Yeah.
sign.
Here's the part that's weird for me is that who was the guy that decided that it was round? Was it Aristotle?
I think
Because
it
I
was
think the
Galileo.
Galileo, maybe.
Because I think the guy who determined, because everybody thought it was flat, and then when he determined it was round,
Everybody was
I
round.
think they killed him for it, or he went
Yeah.
to jail or something
Yeah,
for
they
it.
went after him.
And then everybody decided it was round, which
Because it doesn't fit the narrative. If it doesn't fit the narrative,
right,
you
if
get
it's
rid of it.
different, if it's different, you just don't
It says
like
it was
it.
Newton.
Newton?
Newton?
That's what it says. Isaac Newton
Oh, yeah. Isaac
first
Newton.
proposed the Earth was perfectly round.
Oh,
Isaac,
Ah.
Sir Isaac.
that might change things.
I mean, but anyways, I mean, I just think that the listeners need to just go down a couple rabbit holes on Instagram where there's great information.
Totally agree. Listen,
And
I'm a
just keep
Joe
your mind
Rogan
open.
girl, so
Yeah,
I get full of conspiracies.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
that's where
Like
I'm
there
at.
was a whole, civilization prior to all of us that was
Right.
so advanced. I'm down that rabbit hole. I'm like, when you look at
Yes.
pyramids and you're like, they built that
Yes.
back in
She's
the
almost
day
a
with
flat
no
earther.
shoes.
Here's the thing.
Like-
She's so close to flat earth.
But I'm like all into
Because
vibration
I'm-
and sound. I'm like,
Yeah.
sound totally lifted all that up to
Right.
make them build pyramids.
Right.
And,
Right.
So
There's all kinds
The
of
pyramids are shocking.
There's
They're
a lot of
perfect.
buried history.
Yeah,
There's a lot
they're
of
perfect,
things that are
like-
just we just take it as what we were taught.
taught
from books.
exactly rather than being questioned. I think
don't
I
know.
think our job as humans is to question. That's how we learn.
Yes.
We don't learn by somebody telling us something. We
Right.
learn by questioning what we're being told.
Yes.
That's how we learn.
Now I will
So.
say we haven't landed on the moon, and I'll end with that.
You're right there with my husband. He doesn't think so either.
I don't. It's hard. That one's really hard to believe. See, I'm not a flat earther, and I'm not sure I'm a round earther. I'm not sure what I'm at, and I don't care. To be honest, I really don't care unless there's this big cover up and what's the reason then that we are caring about this, anyways. But the whole landing on the moon thing is becoming more and more we always do this when we're on guys trips. We're like, all right, gun to your head, did we land on the moon? And the answer to that for me is no. For Randy,
gun to my head, I'm still saying yes.
You're still saying yes?
But
What do you think?
I'm not. I'm not
It's
100.
hard.
I'm not playing that
It's-
game
Yeah,
unless I
yeah.
have to.
It's tough. I mean,
I
not
love
to
this.
discredit the people who actually, supposedly were the ones that landed, but I don't know. I just feel like we needed a win, and so politically they
Right.
put that win out there
Yeah.
against another country. We had to be the best country in the world, and so
Right.
if that's the answer, that's the answer. Now, I mean, but like I said, I don't want to discredit all those who did
Yep.
quote unquote land on the moon. Now, whether they did it the year they did it or not,
Right.
maybe not.
Maybe
Have
we
they
did
done
it
it
later,
since?
but-
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good questionable one.
Good. Okay, so
So-
how do people find
So
you?
Spotify's definitely editing that somehow.
So you're on Main Street, right?
Yep, we are on Main Street, downtown
Seven-
Columbia.
1716 Main Street, downtown Columbia. It's Shvaas, SHVAASSPA.
Yep.
So Shvaas Spa.
Yep.
And they can go to shvaasspa.com.
Yep.
And they can even book right on there, right?
Yep.
Was that more beneficial for you if they just go straight there or call you?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely. If they just book straight online, one thing I will tell people that is probably our most popular thing that we do is a spa day package.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours. It's $120.
I'm doing that.
Includes 5 different services. You get a little bit of
Cocoon.
everything. Yep, cocoon's
Yeah.
included
Yep.
in it. Yep. You get a little bit of everything. That way you can see what you like. And then we offer monthly plans, which we call our stress management plans.
Sweet.
You get 360 minutes or 580 minutes, and you spend them however you want to with whatever service and whatever time frame.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
There's going to be a ton of people that come to you. I know that because Columbia needed this.
Absolutely.
And you're on Columbia's hottest podcast.
Awesome.
So-
And if people want to know, I mean, Main Street, just to kind of give you an idea, we are directly across the street from the courthouse.
Oh, nice.
So,
Is it on?
yeah,
Is it on the ground floor or where?
we have a basement.
Oh, your basement.
We do, yeah. So that was quite an investment to structurally support our salt cave.
Right.
Yeah, we had to have a structural engineer. That was a whole to do, but cool process.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
All right. Nice.
yep.
All right. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks
for
for being on the show.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Here
We're here for the health of it.
for the health of it.